perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell politicians to give up the rooms. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth.
God, it's me. Can you hear my plea? Feeling like I'm lost in this world, can't you see? Demons creeping in, trying to take control of me. But I'm just trying to find the light, trying to break free. I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. But why you keep forgetting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feeling like I'm on a leash. Can't find no peace, find no peace. Living in hell, can't you hear my plea? I'm suffocating, can't you see? Why you let these false prophets roam free? While the real ones suffer, can't you see? I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Why you keep targeting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feel like I'm on a leash, can't find no peace.
Hardest battles, strongest soldiers, greatest burden, broadest shoulders. Pushing up just like these boulders. See conflict like it's water. Show this mercy, take my chalice. Seeking grace through all this malice. All of these salty motherfuckers could give up.
Politics and sinners, they all the same. Got me stuck in this endless game. But I won't give up, won't play the role. Gotta do what's best
for my soul.
I'm not perfect, God. Neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell these politicians to give up the room. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth. Living wild but truthfully free. God keep on watching over me. Take my pleas and keep the receipts. I just want all of humanity to be free.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Tuesday. I always start with independent music. Here you go with Bryce and Gray to Peter, and we'll be right back right after this.
Hey, you know he coming through like a thief, and he coming soon. Better be found blameless in that peace. And watch out for false teachers, yeah, we know how they creep. Taking Paul out of context, better read 2 Peter 3. Saying try me, he thought. Ball all the way I told. Real stepper can't be bold. So you man, not my fault. Saying try me, he thought. Ball all the way I told. Okay. Hey, I hope you hear me clear, I don't mumble. I got a list of things, if you practice these you won't stumble. You gotta be diligent, moral excellence, and have knowledge, and have self-control. They gon' want me to change the topic. Perseverance, and godliness, and brotherly kindness, and love. If these qualities are yours, then you got it. This is the way, that's into the eternal kingdom y'all supply. Before you get mad, that 2 Peter 1, read for guidance. Hey, why you got a Bible if you not reading it? How you think that you a child of God without obedience? The church got you walking in the flesh cause you been feeding it, but you ain't studied yourself approved, so you not seeing it. And you know he coming through like a thief, and he coming soon. Better be found blameless in that peace. And watch out for false teachers, yeah, we know how they creep. Taking Paul out of context, better read 2 Peter 3. Saying try me, he thought. Ball all the way I told. Real stepper can't be bold. So you man, not my fault. Saying try me, he thought. Ball all the way I told. Chapter 2 is about all the false prophets that's among us. They exploit you with false words, seem nice but really monsters. Saying you can be lawless and have Christ, then the scripture spin. Hey, but Yahweh didn't even spare the angels when they sin. Those that got brought out of darkness, but they all went back again. They use false words and make you follow them, they reel you in. Go to chapter 3, Peter trying to warn you what they end. To remember all the prophets and apostles say amen. And you know that Christ is coming, heaven and earth gon' pass away. We should be found holy and be found spotless on that day. They gon' distort Paul's letters to take you the other way. Be on guard, so the lawless won't lead you astray. Hey, you know he coming through like a thief, and he coming soon. Better be found blameless in that peace. And watch out for false teachers, yeah, we know how they creep. Taking Paul out of context, better read 2 Peter 3. Saying try me, he thought. Ball all the way I told. Real stepper can't be bold. So you man, not my fault. Saying try me, he thought. Ball all the way I told.
person, Greg, to Peter. What I wanted to get into first today was I wanted to talk about this past weekend. The Minnesota Democrats have yet once again gathered under the banner of the 2026 United Black Legislative Agenda. You heard speeches, you heard promises, you see the photo opportunities. Representatives from major Black organizations stood shoulder to shoulder with elected officials, speaking about progress, partnerships, and political participation. But here's the question nobody wants to ask. After decades of endorsements, alliances, funding, commissions, studies, task force, and strategic plans, what exactly has changed for the average Black family? What has improved for the Black entrepreneur trying to stay open? What has improved for the Black father trying to keep his family safe? What has improved for the Black student trapped in a failing school? Because every election cycle, we're told the same thing again. Vote harder, trust the process, give us more election. Give us one more election. Give us one more budget. Give us one more legislative session. One more promise, one more excuse. And somehow the communities with the highest level of political engagement continue facing many of the same challenges. Now, that's not an argument against voting. It's an argument for accountability. Voting is not the finish line. Voting is the job interview. Performance comes after the election. If leaders want loyalty, they should first deliver results. The uncomfortable truth is that many Black institutions of the past survived because they were built around self-determination, local organizing, and community accountability. Today, many residents are asking whether modern political organizations spend more time protecting relationships with politicians than challenging them. That's a question worth debating, and it's a debate many leaders would rather avoid. There's a couple of videos that I wanted to, like I said, they had a Black agenda or whatever. I think altogether the videos are like maybe 10 minutes, but there's just a few that I wanted to play. And the first one was Jerry McAfee, and this one is a minute and 15 seconds long.
And some of you Black organizations, no, I'm not going to be quiet. That's the problem. We've been too quiet. Nobody wants to shake the tree. And some of you Black organizations, how y'all gonna talk to a Black man like me about public safety when one of my guys saved somebody all right around this time last year? They shot at him 30 times, hit him 3 times. He shot back. They brought him up on charges. Mary did down. They gave him to the feds, and none of the Black organizations said anything. How y'all gonna talk to me? What? Come on now.
You know, the crazy part, I hear Jerry talking about, that shooting that happened on 36th and Penn, where a couple of his violence interrupters were eventually charged. There was a shooting that I don't know if somebody was shooting at them, whatever. They shot back. But what they did do is that they shot back blindly. And blindly it went into nearby houses. And is it safe to be shooting and you don't know what you're shooting at? And I know they want to, talk about Mary and they want to talk about, the feds. I'll say this, as a pastor, you should be up here preaching about wrong is wrong, sin is sin. You know what I'm saying? But we yet as a community have for so long looked at things and seen it from a different light instead of for actually seeing it for what it really is.
Got the data on our effectiveness for public safety. Don't tell me y'all care about public safety. Hell, Charlie and them got the records on our work we've done all across this state. So it's not something that we need to do. Here's what we got to make. Number one, churches, you need to stand up and get some kahunas. These white churches is lining up with the ELCA, the Methodist, and the Presbyterian. They're the ones who formed Isaiah, and now they done formed the other little black preacher marks in that to try to come into our community as they set the agenda for us. Y'all, this ain't the first time we've been poor. Our problem is not poor external. Our issue is we're poor internal.
And the crazy thing is to hear him complaining about money, and he's gotten millions in a lot of cases. So it really trips me out to hear him talk about money.
That's right.
But
by our own hands, we scared and don't want to hear us say what we need to do for ourselves. That's right. Y'all know that's the real reason why they really don't want our group out there, because we're some of the very ones that tell our own people, sit your tail down. No, ain't nothing wrong with y'all. Have you all ever thought, y'all, they wanted to give a young boy 2 years who shot a black woman in Brooklyn Park 8 times. Yes. 1 in the head. And then got mad at us because we stood up and said that's wrong. Right. Because they're down there, they've collected their own data. I went to their meeting, Al came through that meeting over that at the old Thor building, where you got the academicians from the University of Minnesota. They've done all of these studies on the formation of the human brain and what it takes when they get to that age, and they don't know any better. So when it was all over with, I went to the woman who done the study. I said, when was the last time you've been on the block? Well, we haven't. So you mean to tell me you trying to set policy for my people, and you just looking at a book, and you ain't been on the block? Who in here don't know how we know how to play the system? I must be in the wrong place. Holler back at your boy, please. Let me hear.
A straight crook. McAfee ain't nothing but a crook. This video is 30 seconds. But there's L. Flowers Jr., who was just arrested for DWI with his children in the car. And we're up here having somebody speak for the community that has been, he doesn't care about the community, doesn't care about his kid's life. If you can sit here and you can drink and drive with your children in the car, we have a problem. Stop. This is the thing. We condone bad behavior. And why? Let's condemn it. Let's stop condoning all this bullshit and let's condemn it. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think people fully understand that there's a difference. And the crazy part is, I want people to understand is, these are the people that went to the state capitol in St. Paul with Minnesota Safe Streets and got all this money, but North Minneapolis isn't better. North Minneapolis is nowhere near better. We're still at the bottom, and we're fighting for crumbs. And the crazy part is, the crumbs that North Minneapolis does get, it goes to these fake ass leaders, fake ass pastors, fake ass churches, nonprofits that sit here and say they're doing for the people, but they're really not. Because when you look at their 990 forms for their organizations, you can sit here and see that majority of the money doesn't hit the streets. It goes to pay their rent, their lights, their water, their employees. There's not much left for the streets where it needs to go. But yet we're sitting here scamming, being wasteful. So I really don't get it. Let's see what else. See, this one is 4 minutes long.
You don't always get along with your allies. White folks fought a 100-year war, but when they decided that they wanted to move outside of Europe and fight and get things, they decided to put their differences aside.
Now we still blaming white people for our problems. I don't fucking understand that. Let's stop blaming white people.
Yes, they've done things to us. Yes, they've wronged us. But at the same time,
I can't even listen to that shit. When they start blaming white people, it's like we're our biggest problem. We're not even a solution. Because what the crazy part of it is, when you have black people that want to be a solution and not the problem, you have people that are the part of the problem and not the solution all in. That's what I don't understand. Is like, how do we look at this shit? April Graves, L. Flowers Jr., stuttering, scam artist. I don't get this shit, scam artist. I don't know who either one of these ones are. I think that's Fall Samba. She's a council person in St. Paul. I think that drunk. This shit really, really tripped me out. How? Oh, that ain't even that. That was Bishop Howe. That's Bishop Howe. A crook. For one of the biggest churches over north. DFLer, don't vote for her. Liar, scam artist, DWI artist. I don't know who that is. Bobby Joe Ho champion. I just don't get it, man. It's like, do we actually want change, or do we just want to say that we're doing something? Like, I don't get it. Like, what are we really trying to do? You know, what are we really, really trying to do? And I just don't get it. I just don't get it. We have violence interruption groups who are supposed to be a solution, but instead yet they're a problem. And we have to come together. I don't know how we come together, but we definitely got to get these so-called black leaders to stop talking for us, to stop talking for the minority when they're not even speaking for us. So I want to get into the exit of O'Hara. You know, more has come out, you know, of complaints, of other things. So I wanted to kind of get into that. And here's a video, it's 26 minutes long, about Brian O'Hara and the exit and all the things that have actually come out in the media since he's resigned.
I talked to a lot of people, and they really spoke highly of Brian O'Hara. His star had never been higher. But I've interviewed several dozen people, described to me abusive behavior and sort of an explosive temper behind the scenes, which was completely at odds with his public image, which was extremely polished.
This is Essential Minnesota, and I'm Melissa Townsend. Each week on the show, a journalist from the Minnesota Star-Tribune digs into one big Minnesota story that matters. I'm here with one person today, Liz Sawyer. She's a reporter at the Star-Tribune, and she's been covering public safety and law enforcement for nearly a decade. Hey, Liz.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Liz, as you know, on May 26th, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey held a press conference where he announced that he had learned that Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara had obstructed an investigation into complaints against him.
Today, I have an extremely difficult announcement to make regarding Police Chief Brian O'Hara. When complaints or allegations come forward involving any employee, especially someone in a position of leadership, they are reviewed thoroughly and independently.
Frey rescinded his support for O'Hara to serve as a second term as chief, and he even threatened to discipline him.
This is not about being intolerant of mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, including me. But what I can't allow is a breach of trust.
As a result, O'Hara resigned. And I know you have sources in and around the Minneapolis Police Department who tell you things. So when this news broke, you basically knew.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think most of the public knew that the chief was under investigation, but I have known for a long time and was preparing to publish a story saying just that. And before I was able to publish that story, City Hall took action on that alleged misconduct.
So who is Brian O'Hara? Where did he come from? What was his track record? What brought him to the attention of Minneapolis city leaders?
Yeah, Brian is from Newark, New Jersey. He spent his entire career coming up through the Newark Police Department. He climbed the ranks there from a regular beat cop, made it all the way to deputy chief, eventually became their public safety director, and then ultimately was elevated to deputy mayor. And that was the position he held when he applied to come here as the chief of police post George Floyd. And he said that he felt like that was a calling to take on that challenge in Minneapolis.
Were there any red flags at that point? Did anybody look into his background and say, he had these complaints, or there were these charges of misconduct or anything like that?
Well, what's interesting is that New Jersey has different data practices laws than us. It's not as easy to get an officer's personnel jacket there. I attempted to get his records from Newark, and I was told that they were not public. He did not agree to release all of them. However, I did go down to Newark before he was confirmed. I talked to a lot of people, and at the time, everybody had so much praise for him and the work he did down there. I talked to activist groups who were no fan of police, no fan of even the Newark Police Department, and they really spoke highly of Brian O'Hara. So the only thing that was a red flag before he came in was that the city and the council were sent an anonymous letter that we looked into, but we couldn't figure out who sent it, and it made a series of claims, including the fact that he had allegedly had some sort of sexual harassment incident down there. But I reached out to the office that investigated those kind of claims for someone of his stature. They said that they had never received a complaint against him, nor had they ever investigated a complaint against him. And so at the time, we didn't write a story about that because there was nothing in there that we could substantiate. The BCA took a look at it when they did their background check, but nothing ever came of it.
Well, let's start at the beginning here. O'Hara was hired at a time when the Minneapolis Police Department was in basically a tailspin, right? Total upheaval. In fact, in 2021, 44% of Minneapolis voters voted to disband the police force in favor of a whole different model of community safety. Of course, that didn't win, that didn't pass, but 44% of the voters says there's not a lot of confidence in the force.
They were looking for a change maker.
So you've heard me say repeatedly that the position of police chief is among the most important hires that I will ever make. And to that end, we've spent the last 10 months asking people throughout our city what they wanted to see in our next police chief.
Someone who could truly take up the mantle of reform, much of which was court mandated in the wake of George Floyd's murder.
And so today, I'm very pleased to inform you that I will be nominating Brian O'Hara, the deputy mayor of the city of Newark, New Jersey, as my nominee for the next police chief of the city of Minneapolis.
And he successfully cast himself as a true believer in reform. But the reason people really liked him when he came in for the interview was that he was credited with overseeing Newark's federal consent decree. So he had practice navigating this very complex court-mandated reform effort, which is what we expected to have here in Minneapolis. We have a state one through the the Minnesota Department of Human Rights, but we were also anticipating that the DOJ would come in and institute a federal consent decree. That almost happened. The feds filed the suit, but then ultimately the Trump administration clawed it back once President Trump came into power for the second time. And he came in with a unanimous vote by the council.
Change takes time. And obviously no one person can bring forth the culture change that people want to see. It's not going to happen overnight. And there's a lot of hard work ahead. There are a lot of serious challenges facing the city and facing this police department. But what I do believe is that a couple years from now, 2 or 3 years from now, we will all be in a different place. and it will be something for the better.
How was he received inside the police force?
Mixed. I mean, there's always going to be some friction between the police federation, the union, and the police chief because he's tasked with, disciplining misconduct.
He's the boss.
Yeah.
The workers. Yeah.
Some of the rank and file, especially in the beginning, really liked that he was willing to go out in the field. He would run out with rank and file officers, make arrests even. That is not the norm. The chief of police position has always been much more of an administrative role. So some of the rank and file thought it was cool that he was willing to do the stuff that he expected of them. But there was also a lot of resistance in the front office. So the people who were more high-ranking in the executive leadership team and the command staff who worked with him closely and got to see his temper behind the scenes. Many of them, I've interviewed several dozen people, described to me abusive behavior and sort of an explosive temper behind the scenes, which was completely at odds with his public image, which was extremely polished.
Mm-hmm. So let's fast forward to this year, 2026. I think most people agree Brian O'Hara publicly was having a pretty good year. Crime has been down, but it's also down nationally, so that's not just because of the Minneapolis police force.
Mm-hmm. I mean, crime trends are cyclical, but it is true that the police department can boast double-digit reductions in most violent crime metrics, and that's a win after many years of elevated crime numbers post-George Floyd.
Do you think that is because of work that they're doing on the force?
I mean, I think that there are tangible things, especially on the north side, that the police department can point to when you've had corners that have been troubled for many years, where there have been homicide hotspots, and then all of a sudden you have almost none in those intersections. Clearly something is happening. Some of that work has been in process for longer than Chief O'Hara had been here, but a lot of the community groups will give the police department credit for new techniques that have driven down, especially the most violent crime.
It's also true that recruits to the police force were up, right? Because so many people had left in the post-George Floyd period.
Yeah. Mayor Fry gives Chief O'Hara a lot of credit for that, and so do some of his top leadership, that he has successfully recruited diverse officers to this police force at a time when, in the aftermath of 2020, there was a real decline in the number of folks who wanted to become a police officer in general, let alone wear the Minneapolis uniform after everything that happened here. And yet, in recent years, we have actually seen a huge uptick in the number of folks who want to join, and some of the most diverse recruitment classes in the department's history. So suddenly, these recruits are looking more and more like the community they serve, which is what residents have been asking for a very long time.
Wow. And then Operation Metro Surge starts December 1st, and he gets a pretty high profile because of what he did during that whole surge of federal agents.
Chief O'Hara quickly emerged as one of the most vocal critics of ICE tactics in the entire country. He was extremely outspoken about how federal agents were abusing regular citizens here in Minneapolis. He denounced it repeatedly. He went on the New York Times Daily podcast.
Today, I speak with Brian O'Hara about his experience with ICE in Minneapolis and why, in his mind, the president's campaign of mass deportation is undermining faith in police departments like his.
He gave very articulate interviews about what was happening in our city. And so his national profile rose tremendously during that time, and his star had never been higher. And it was an important time for him because his term had just ended at the end of the year of 2025, and he was seeking a renomination from the mayor and reappointment from the council.
But all the while, in the background, while all that is happening, there are complaints racking up against O'Hara.
Right.
what was happening?
Yeah, I mean, people, it was no secret for anyone who worked with him and many folks in City Hall that Chief O'Hara had big feelings. You know, he could be talking about something very emotional, like the horrific death of Jamal Mitchell, who was an officer ambushed on the police force, the first Minneapolis cop killed in 20 years on the job. He would be very emotional talking about that loss and Jamal Mitchell's family. But then he could, sort of swing in the other direction on an issue like bad media, bad story in the press. Anyone who worked closely with him saw those swings, and there were long allegations that he had been, sort of abusive toward front office staff or, lost his temper regularly behind closed doors. And then over time, as his tenure continued, there seemed to be a huge surge in complaints in this past year.
So you wrote about these 30 complaints against the chief, and you got some real blowback. I was looking back at some letters to the editor, and one writer wrote, "The alarming headline alleging a growing list of complaints against O'Hara was inappropriate and unfair, given the total lack of any transparency regarding the complaint process." The writer went on, "The complaint process should be made transparent and allegations substantiated. Otherwise, lay off O'Hara until a serious allegation is proven worthy of threatening his continued employment as our police chief." People didn't believe the complaints? People didn't want to hear about the complaints? Or people don't take the complaints seriously?
Well, I think for anyone who liked and supported the chief, there was an assumption that many, if not all, of these complaints were absolutely frivolous, that they could not be rooted in real misconduct because he just simply put himself out there and he was doing a good job based on those metrics that we had talked about, based on recruitment and violent crime. And folks liked that he talked very candidly to the public, that he defended his police force, that he tried to up morale in public statements. So I think some of those reader responses come down to the fact that people want to assume good intent. And even just in January, after he'd completed his 3-year term, people were begging him to stay. We don't have a way of knowing just how many of these 30 complaints that were listed on the city dashboard are related to Operation Metro Surge, because the substance of a complaint is not public. Now, what I do know from my sources is that a number of them were related to Operation Metro Surge because he had faced criticism, frankly, from both sides of the aisle, from the progressives for not doing enough, and from the right for standing in the way, essentially, of federal agents for not helping them. So he was taking heat from both sides of it, but the most serious ones were not. The main thing is that there had been sort of a constant drumbeat that whole time of allegations about his sex life and about his treatment towards staff. And so once we found out that there was a very serious complaint in April of 2025, we started looking into what kind of investigation the city was having.
When you say complaints about his sex life, is it sexual interaction with subordinates? Because that's what Fry talked about.
Yes. So in April of 2025, an anonymous complaint came in that was filed by someone who described themselves as a 30-year veteran of the police force who'd recently retired. And it alleged that he had had sexual relationships with 3 female subordinates, and it named them. It alleged that he had created a hostile work environment in the office, and even on at least one occasion threatened to punch his predecessor, who now works in the city attorney's office. But because it didn't have a name attached, they couldn't go interview the person who filed it. But the city took it very seriously, and they immediately farmed it out to an external Minneapolis law firm to have their own independent investigation. So that law firm, over the next several months, started calling in a bunch of witnesses, called in the women who were named in this complaint. And it's important to note that all of those women denied having an intimate relationship with the chief. We don't have any more context than what was alleged in the actual complaint. But because the women denied that kind of interaction, and there was no physical evidence, like no photographs of intimacy or anything like that. Ultimately, that case was closed with what the law firm deemed insufficient evidence. So they could not prove that any of that behavior had existed.
Was any of that public?
Nope.
No.
None. It all happened behind the scenes.
Wow.
So, Liz, then they reopened the investigation. Why?
So a department whistleblower came forward with an audio tape that
Which we don't have, and I wish we did, but we don't.
we don't have a copy of it, but I have reviewed it numerous times.
Yeah.
And it's a short conversation between the whistleblower and the chief's driver. Most members of the public probably don't even realize that the chief had one, but he had hand-selected a officer to ride with him, essentially be his right hand for most of his tenure. And this officer, Abdi Samad Ahmed, transferred to the department in 2021, and he was the chief's kind of shadow. He was with him all the time at press conferences, at crime scenes, and the chief had explained to the council that he wanted someone like that to act as a liaison to the East African community. And so Officer Ahmed is Somali. We have a large Somali population here in Minneapolis. And so they were essentially partners this whole time. The audio recording, which I have listened to multiple times, shows a conversation between this whistleblower and the driver, in which the driver acknowledges that the chief's cell phone had been taken during this investigation, his work cell phone, and that the driver had went to seek out one of the women named in that complaint to, quote, get her story straight, because she was thought to have been texting with the police chief. So the emergence of this evidence reopens the case against the chief, which had been closed months prior.
I also heard that the chief deleted text messages. Tell me about that.
So during the course of the first investigation, they had done a forensic audit on the chief's work cell phone. And they had to do 2 different rounds of imaging because of some security features on his phone. So they had 2 sets of data.
Okay.
They had the first round of imaging and the second round of imaging. When none of the women, had said there was anything improper going on, the case was closed. But when the tape recording came back out and they started looking at everything again, they realized that there was a discrepancy between the first round of imaging and the second round of imaging. And essentially the investigators were able to prove that the only difference between those two was that the chief had apparently deleted a contact card, one of like 600 in his phone, and that contact card belonged to one of the women in question. But that tape recording is the only reason that they end up finding out that there is proof that essentially the chief had messaged with this young woman who had not even at the time graduated from the police academy. Of the 3 that were named in that complaint, she was the youngest, and this exhibited the largest power dynamic imbalance. So why would the chief do that if not to conceal evidence and investigation?
Wow. So Brian O'Hara, what's crazy is to, hear these things. And I was someone that when O'Hara was appointed, I went to Minneapolis City Council and I spoke. I did not what I believed at the time was very good background on. I knew more than a lot of the people that were on the council, or I really went into Brian O'Hara's background. I called and I talked to some violence interruption groups in Newark, and for a lot of people, they're ACAB or it's Fuck 12, whatever. But I didn't hear anything but great things about O'Hara. So I was really pumped. And like I stated, when the nomination for him was like, hearing the things that I'm hearing now, it kind of baffles me, is because like the whole time I felt like I was standing up for a snake. And I believed at the time this was somebody who was going to make a difference in Minneapolis Police Department. But the only difference that he was making was having sex with his subordinates and doing a whole bunch of other shit. And it makes me like, damn, we need to have higher standards. And it's crazy that to hear the things that are coming out, and Mayor Frey didn't do anything, the council didn't do anything, and everybody can say, well, oh, we didn't know, we didn't know. How did y'all not know when you work for the city of Minneapolis? Do they not? Mayor Frey runs it. He should have known. The council should have known it to some degree. And it's like, how is anybody actually doing anything for the community when they're not even transparent with the community? They tell us lies, or it's all kind of twisted and so far from the truth that we don't even know what the truth is anymore. You know, it's just like what the lady was saying, is that back in April of last year, there was an investigation into how O'Hara with 3 females, and then you hear about this year about one of the ladies that was brought up in that prior investigation, and you're like, damn, so he actually kind of was. And it's like, what happened to right versus wrong, man? And it's like, we see so many people up above who should be held to higher standards, and who took oaths to sit here and protect and serve, and yet went against everything that was in that oath. And I've always believed that, even when, you know, back to the days of Dante Wright, you know, even how Brooklyn Center handled the situation with his mom afterwards the next year, there's no type of responsibility, accountability, or anything. They just think that they can pay money, people can sign an NDA, and it's over with. It's not over with. That pain never goes away. That pain never goes away. You know what's crazy is they have to drive by Brooklyn Center. They have to see some of the same police officers. Yes, Kim Potter did go to prison, but yet she works for the police union. And I know a lot of people probably don't know that, but if you go out to Brooklyn Center and you go out to their, I think it's called LELA, right? There's a blue stripe across their window. It's in the Brooklyn Center. I see it every time I go to my grandson's gravesite. And it's like, damn, you know, I've always talked about like busting the windows or whatever, but when you go by, because I'm way back in the day, probably like 2021, I did scope it out or whatever, and there's a lot of cameras on the doors, on the windows, so it's not like you can sit there and, you know, do something or whatever. But at some point, I really didn't give a fuck. I didn't do nothing, but it's like the shit that I have done out there to police, and to hear the things that even a man that I highly respected as a police chief was out here doing wrong. And to me, that's like, damn, where was my higher standards? But, you know, what goes on in the dark always comes to the light. And I can see why he got out of Minneapolis the next day after he resigned, because, yeah, this is some really explosive. I don't think he's ever going to work in law enforcement ever again after this shit. There's still shit that's coming out. They said they're still going to complete their investigations. So I'm sure that this isn't the end of the O'Hara saga. I think it's just beginning, and I'm strapping for a long summer, because it's definitely going to be long.
When they brought back in the chief and this young woman to talk, eventually she did admit that they had been texting, that he had sent her a picture of them together with some other people, and that he had messaged her some other things. After he had repeatedly denied that they'd ever texted, faced with this information, he did admit to that. So it was the untruthfulness that led to his ousting. But we still do not know to this day whether there had been an improper romantic relationship.
So city leaders have this reopened investigation into Chief O'Hara potentially obstructing investigation into complaints against him. And yet, on May 7th, Mayor Fry renominates Chief O'Hara to be a chief of police for the second term.
Correct. We just don't know how much of that the mayor knew at the time that he took this step.
So then comes May 26th, and the mayor does a 180.
Right.
It was a shock to a lot of people who have not known that any of this was brewing behind the scenes. And, the mayor has said repeatedly, I took action as soon as I got the report. The city maintains that they followed proper protocol, and as soon as they had a report to hang this on that showed that the behavior had been substantiated, they acted. And one thing that people have pointed out is that other agencies, including Metro Transit and Golden Valley, whose top law enforcement officials have had serious, credible allegations against them, they were placed on paid administrative leave pretty quickly and remained that way for months before a findings report was issued. In Minneapolis's case, it's the opposite, where he maintained his job the whole time, was never placed on paid leave, and then a findings report was issued. And I asked the city about that, and they said, every investigation's different, every department is different, and sort of they've made the case that the nature of his job is different than some of these other ones.
Okay, so Fry pulls away his support for O'Hara. O'Hara resigns. And what happened to the driver?
Officer Ahmed was relieved of duty on Friday, May 29th. And that was after we had sent some questions to the city attorney asking why he remained on duty given the severity of the allegations against him. He remains under investigation by the law firm. That's what we're told.
When O'Hara was hired, he was hired as this person who could bring change and deal with the consent decree and change the culture of a department that had been found to be racially discriminatory. And it's these allegations about his behavior that bring him down. What has the city lost here, and what have we gained?
Well, I think a lot of people are going to think that we lost some stability. We won't know who the permanent replacement is for quite some time. What does that mean for folks as we head into the summer, which is typically a much higher crime time of the year? What have we gained? I think the public has gained some real awareness about some of the things that were happening behind the scenes. They did not understand. That's why we got so many of those letters to the editors. When I was writing stories about his complaints and some skepticism by the city council, people were looking at his track record and looking at his public comments and his public appearances and saying, I don't get it. Like, why are key members of the council sour on him? And they didn't understand that all this stuff was swirling in the background. Also, what we've learned since Chief O'Hara's resignation is that the Independent Monitor, Effective Law Enforcement for All, and the Department of Human Rights felt that he was a barrier to some of the reform efforts that were so important to this city. And those comments have only been made publicly since he left. So would we have known that if the renomination process had went forward as planned? So I think there's still lots of questions to answer about how this played out. And citizens are left wondering, okay, who's next? Like, who are we going to bring in to lead this police force? And I think many of the officers are left sort of in shock and angry that this is how it played out. They were hoping to enter a new era, rebuilding public trust, try and get past some of the sins of their, of 2020. And this is really a step backward for a lot of them. As one told me, it just feels like another hit to our reputation, locally and nationally.
Thanks, Liz.
You know what? She's not lying. You know, how much worse can it get in Minneapolis? And just to know that, I mean, even what I'm going to talk about next, how do we have any trust in Minneapolis city council, the mayor? Because you do see a lot of bullshit, you do see a lot of back and forth, and there's not a lot of progress. We're having step forward. We keep on going backwards because we don't want to deal with the shit that's at hand. You know, we don't want to deal with the fucked up mayor. We don't want to, but we should. Because how are we supposed to get better if the people that are supposed to know better, but they're not doing any better? So I really don't understand that. And I think at some point we need to have a conversation about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we definitely need to have a conversation about this, because this is what I want to talk about next. Taxpayer-funded therapy. Yeah, I know people are going to laugh, but I'm serious. Taxpayer-funded therapy. Listen to this.
Now, in Minneapolis, the full city council and Mayor Jacob Frey are getting vulnerable and honest about their interpersonal communication. The city is paying $1.4 million for them to all go through training and coaching together. Tonight, people who live there are weighing in.
Well, I really hope they can get it figured out. I hope at the very least that it's productive.
I feel like a lot of groups have those kind of little dynamics that need to get worked out, and most groups don't then turn around and do that. So yeah, I think there are definitely less expensive and probably better working ways to kind of work that one out.
Hopefully they don't have these issues in the future.
That's right. This isn't free. Our Callan Gray spoke with a few city leaders today who seem optimistic after years of very public disagreements. Callan.
Lindsay, city leaders are coming together in one room. I'm told the first gathering was interrupted by Renee Good's killing. But just in the last 2 weeks, they held another session, and the plan is to do this quarterly.
After profanity to ongoing disagreements about plans and policies.
Today's short-sighted decision by the council.
This budget document showing the hundreds of thousands of dollars the city of Minneapolis is now spending each year of the current term to help everyone get along.
I am fairly optimistic about it.
Council members welcoming the intervention.
People just want to see their elected leaders do the job.
The city clerk's office says it initiated the contract with the consultant, approved by the council in September, to establish goal sharing and collaboration and provide one-on-one coaching to city leaders. Councilmember Chowdhury telling us it brings the council, mayor, and cabinet members together.
When we talk about the cost of this, how do you explain the need for this to the residents who might say you should be able to work it out without a third party?
I have only heard from residents that they want us to work our stuff out. They want us to work our stuff out. And this is a way for us to actually get to the root of it and address it so we can be better representatives and leaders, and we can do a better job of debating the issue.
We have to figure out how to engage in a level of not necessarily unification, but productive work.
First term council member Jamison Whiting.
And if that comes at a cost, I think we better make sure that we are putting in the effort and the time and trust to actually do that for our constituents.
Telling us they've already set 3 standards: no personal attacks, have conversations about issues before stepping in front of the mic, and hold each other accountable. Chowdhury calling it productive work that will continue.
And to figure out the skills we need to sort out conflict without a third party. Right? That's the goal, is to find a sustainable path forward.
Mayor Frey was not available for an interview, but says in a statement, quote, Minneapolis works best when the people elected to lead it can work through disagreements respectfully and get things done. Going on to say if better communication helps us deliver safer streets, more housing and better city services, that's a worthwhile investment, Lindsay.
You know, I want people to know that So 1.4 million for counseling, whatever you want to call it, and then 1.4 for their salaries for the year. Well, that's pretty costly to pay so grown ass adults who should already be able to put their pride, put their egos aside, because it's not about them, it's about the people. They should be able to put their shit aside, but yet instead they spend $1.4 million of taxpayer money for counseling. That's, to me, that's dumb. That just shows that we literally cannot have adult conversations with adults, because I don't know what else it would show. It literally shows that we have a big ass problem. One thing that I wanted to talk about before I get out of here today is this Tyson. I wanted to talk about Tyson Goodsell that happened in Mankato, Minnesota. You know, a lot of people are trying to race bait this story instead of just trying to tell people the real story, because race baiting it isn't going to help people be aware. Lying and put a narrative out here isn't going to help keep our community safe. Telling people the truth and not trying to race bait this is what we need. Because I want, and this is the thing, they say, well, Tyson Goodsell, he was a white 17-year-old football player who was executed in cold blood by a gang of Somalis in Mankato 2026. And it's like, yo, that's not even the whole story. That's not even nowhere near the whole story. And it's like, all you're doing is getting people enraged instead of actually telling them the truth. What happened? What is so wrong with telling the truth? What is so wrong with telling the truth? That's all I want to know. What is so wrong with telling the truth? What is so wrong with telling the truth? So, here's a little, I guess they made a little 15-minute video. Because I want to tell people, I want people to know the actual truth of this and not
found dead after
race baited. So this is Tyson Goodsell. This is the whole about how a drug deal gone wrong. And it wasn't about Somalians and whites. No, this was about drugs and money. This wasn't about race. They didn't care about none of that. All they cared about was the money and cannabis, because when you deal, no matter if it's just weed, it's still risky business. You're dealing with people that have no rules. They don't care about none of that. So that led up to Tyson, we have to look at the people around him, because they set him up. Somebody that was close to him set him up, and a young man died. And that is sad. That is very, very sad. But let's be honest about it. We can stop this if we have a talk with our kids. Because I'll tell you right now, when you start getting into this life, no matter if you are selling weed because you think that it's safe, it's not safe. Everybody, if you look like you're weak, this is a dog-eat-dog world out there when it comes to the streets. And if you're not ready to die, because I know a lot of people look at, they hear the what made 50 Cent famous or whatever, and it was Get Rich or Die Trying. He was shot 9 times. Stop trying to be fucking 50. Y'all are white. This is Mankato. This is not North Minneapolis. And this is the whole problem that I can tell, is that we're not having conversations with our youth. It's because for the last 3 years, at least 2 to 3 people from this area, Byron, Spring Valley, Rochester, have gone down to the cities thinking they were big shit. And look what happens. You guys are not big shit. Stop trying to act like you're Scarface and just be you. What is so wrong with being a kid? You're 17 years old. You had a whole life ahead of you, young man. And to throw it away for what? For some new shoes? Because the only thing that comes with that lifestyle is death or prison. That's the only thing that comes with that. There is no fairy tale ending at the end. There isn't no good tale, oh, no. Look at any famous drug dealer and throughout history and look at their stories. See how it ended for them. See how it ended for them. And then a lot of them went to prison, done years. There's still people in prison to this day over cocaine. But you got people that are selling fentanyl that's killing people. They're just getting slaps on the wrist. So watch this story about Minnesota teen Tyson Michael Goodsell.
Minnesota teen Tyson Michael Goodsell, 17, was found dead after posting an Instagram photo showing himself with a massive bag of cash. Police said he was shot hours later after his vehicle crashed into a North Mankato townhouse. Officers were dispatched around 11 p.m. after reports of gunshots in the area. Investigators have identified a 2010 Chevrolet Impala, believed to be connected to the case, and his death is being investigated as a homicide with no arrests made.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Y'all know my slogan. I don't know it all, but I know what I've been through. Now, before we get into this video, make sure you check us out on Patreon at www.patreon.com/hookah_anonymous. You guys been telling us to create one for the longest, so we recently created a community where we will upload videos that we can't share on YouTube due to their guidelines. We'll also be dropping the latest to there first, behind the scenes information that you wouldn't find anywhere else on our socials. So make sure you become a member, and after you do that, head over to our official Instagram page at hookah_anonymous and follow us there. Now without further ado, let's get into what you guys came here to see. Now, how does a good kid who comes from a decent home, play football, and never bothered anybody gets into trouble to the point where his life was mysteriously taken within hours of a social media post? This story has been brought to our attention to shed light on it, where some say he was innocent, just wanted to make money and be himself. Others are saying there's a far more sinister side to it, where the looks could be deceiving, and behind a young Minnesota teen lies deception, money, and possible crime. However, his loved ones say that that's not what it is, and Tyson worked hard for his money, stayed to himself, hit the gym, and was eager to become a man. Perhaps the eagerness may have been one of the sole reasons why he's no longer here. The attack on his life wasn't random, and it's alleged there's a young female involved that may know more details on it than she's exposing, or may have had something to do with Tyson's demise by the way or setup. Right now we don't know, but what we do know is a 17-year-old kid is no longer here over nothing. And his father have also pointed out that he believes his son was set up as well. And as we find out what happened to him, it definitely was a targeted situation where the suspects knew exactly what they were coming for. Now, before we get into it, let me just say this. Once you participate in the streets, or even look like you are in any way, shape, or form, you have to be prepared with what comes with it. A lot of guys lost their life trying to act like they're a part of something they really wasn't, and when the energy they attracted actually came back to haunt them, the pressure was too much. And I think the perfect way to explain this is this. Imagine wearing a fake chain and going to the club. You got guys who are hungry and see anything like that as an opportunity to eat. So let's say they see you, try to rob you for your chain, and in the process, you get shot. The suspect who's trying to get some money for that chain would take it to a pawn shop, only to realize that it was a fake chain in the first place, so he did all that for nothing. But then you also got to realize that now you're shot over a fake chain, and there's a possibility that you may lose your life. And once again, all over a fake chain. You understand why I made that comparison in a minute, but in the meantime, we're going to get into the video where a 17-year-old kid was shot in the head just hours after making a social media post. But before we do, make sure you hit that thumbs up button hype the video so we can get into the algorithm. And if you not subscribed to the platform already, make sure you do so now. Let's get into it.
No, people should go watch this video and get the full story about Tyson Goodsell. Just don't get bits and pieces to make you some money. Get to know the actual story. Get to know what was, Tyson Goodsell. Just don't, because you know the name, know the story. You know what I'm saying? Know what you're fighting for.
17-year-old Tyson Goodsell, aka Tyson G, was a resident of North Mankato. He played football, worked a job, attended school, and loved to go to the gym. His friends will all describe him as a chill friend who didn't bother anybody, but liked to dress and take pictures with money he made from working. Goodsell worked the closing shift at Papa Murphy's Pizza Shop in North Mankato, where he finished around 9 p.m. Saturday night. It said that after his shift, he would stop to take a picture with what appeared to be a duffel bag full of money, visibly seeing stacks of hundreds and 20s inside the bag as he posted it to Instagram. It would be this picture that many believe will lead up to what happened next, as shortly after he would be shot while making his way home, and he wasn't too far from his residence. A report from an online news article from KSTP would state, quote, "The North Mankato teen homicide victim, who was shot before crashing into a townhome on Saturday night, has been identified as 17-year-old Tyson Michael Goodsell, according to police. As of Tuesday morning, investigators are still searching for a silver 2010 Chevrolet Impala that may have been observed traveling through the area. They are asking residents on Pleasant View Drive, Northridge Drive, and the surrounding neighborhoods to review any available home surveillance video. Officers responded Saturday at about 11:03 p.m. to the area of Pleasant View Drive and Willow Lane after reports of gunshots. A short time later, police said that they also got a call regarding a car that crashed into a townhome on Willow Trail. Goodsell was found inside the vehicle, and officers started life-saving measures before he was taken to a nearby hospital. He passed away a short time later. North Mankato police said they believe the shooting was not a random act, but said there is no known threat to the public at this time.
17-year-old North Mankato teen was fatally shot in his car over the weekend.
It happened at the intersection of Willow Trail and Pleasant View Drive late Saturday night. Tonight, KUIC's Evan Berg has the latest on the investigation and what we're learning about Tyson Goodsell from those who knew him.
A North Mankato neighborhood is still processing after 17-year-old Tyson Michael Goodsell was shot and killed near Pleasant View Park on Saturday night. People who live near Willow Trail and Pleasant View Drive in North Mankato say they awoke to the sound of 4 loud pops around 10:50 Saturday night. They thought they were fireworks at first, but soon it was clear it was gunfire. One resident on Willow Trail says after the shots woke him up, he heard a loud boom. That's when something crashed into his home. Soon after, he saw headlights and smoke. Thinking his garage was on fire, he rushed out to find a car had backed into the side of his house. Inside, there was a teenager with a gunshot wound. Goodsell's family tells KUIC Goodsell had just finished closing up the store at Mankato's Madison Avenue Papa Murphy's an hour before the shooting. Police say they began life-saving measures at the scene when officers arrived at 11:03 and the teen was taken to Mayo Clinic Health System, Mankato, where he later died. To honor Goodsell's memory, classmates and neighbors have been leaving flowers at a makeshift memorial at Pleasant View Park. Goodsell was an incoming senior at Mankato West, who plays for the football team and who is known to live in the area. Random. And classmates of Goodsell claim he was being bothered by an unnamed group of people. The police say there is no known threat to the public. In North Mankato, Evan Berg, KUIC News Now.
As of right now, no suspects have been named. Anyone with information is urged to call North Mankato Police at 507-625-7883 and ask for Lieutenant Brian Gangelhoff or investigator David Von Berge.
Now here's where things get interesting. As the father of Tyson would respond to his son's death on Facebook, he would address it from his personal page first, stating, quote, "Yes, my son was shot in the head last night. Anyone with info, direct message me ASAP. Rest in peace, Tyson Goodsell. Wish we could have had that talk, man. Know your daddy loves you. This dude gonna have a hard time in prison, and it ain't even gonna be on me. My name holds weight, and his butt effed up. I don't know why God keep taking everyone and leaving me." Now, his father also owned a barbershop, and from that barbershop page on social media, he will also sing a different tune when it comes to his son's death, where in the first post, he would state, quote, "My kid didn't deserve this. He worked and hit the gym. My boy was becoming a man and died for his respect. Rest in peace, my strong boy. Your dad is still proud of you. Rest in peace, Tyson Goodsell." Now, in the next post, he would allege that a girl may have had something to do with his son being set up, and also provided a screenshot of messages from what looks like Snapchat, where she admitted that she was on the scene. First, the father's post would state, quote, "This meaner girl better walk in the police station and say everything she knows right now, if she knows what's good for her, or she just is guilty. Please share." Now, the messages would state, quote, "It was Jackson Carr. I know, Mina. I had no idea anything was gonna happen. I know you didn't know. I'm not blaming you. Are you okay? He's only 17. I know." Now, it seems like to me when she says it was Jackson's car, she's referring to that 2010 Chevrolet that the police are looking for. When she said it's Jackson's car, that had to be somebody else equivalent to the other car, which was driven by Tyson. And this will also prove that whoever Mina is, she was present with him during the shooting, because she even admitted to it in the messages and said that she didn't know anything about anything. But it seemed like the little bit that she do know, maybe the police will want to know as well. Now, aside from just the messages alone, when you pay attention to the pictures he took just 2 hours before his death, either he had a tripod with him, or these were taken by somebody who was present. So the million-dollar question is who? And why did they leave the scene instead of telling law enforcement everything that they knew? Now, I found another article based on the situation that will also allude to there being someone else present during the shooting, as the article would state, quote, "Cops are saying the shooting that left a 17-year-old slumped in a crashed car absolutely was not random. Somebody deliberately put a bullet in this kid named Tyson Goodsell before his ride crashed near Willow Trail. Officers got the call for gunfire late Saturday in a normally chill residential pocket near Pleasant View Drive and Willow Lane, but the scene they actually found was a nightmare. Vehicles smashed up near the townhomes, with the teen inside suffering from a gunshot wound. They raced him to the hospital, yet nothing could be done and he died, sparking a wave of grief online as friends posted memories while authorities still haven't officially confirmed his identity. The non-random detail is what sticks because it completely changes how you look at the records. This wasn't a stray bullet or wrong place, wrong time chaos, but something intentional that ended with a car crash. Investigators are now digging through surveillance footage from houses and businesses, and they've specifically flagged a silver Chevrolet Impala that was in the area, believing that vehicle holds answers about who crossed paths with Tyson and why it escalated to M. What happened in that car before it veered off and stopped for good remains locked behind the silence of whoever was there. Now, if you pay attention to what it said whatever happened inside the car, which means that they have reason to believe that whatever took place may have took place inside of the car, sounding like they believe that he was shot in the car first, and then that's what led to the wreckage. Not sure, just going based off what the article is saying. Now, throughout social media, although you have a bunch of people saying that Tyson was this loving, caring, hardworking kid, you have others that feel he couldn't have been so innocent, because if he worked at a pizza shop and was a 17-year-old student, then where did he get all that money? And I get it. But also, this is not the 90s, y'all. It's 2026, where you have kids in high school, sometimes even junior high school, making more money than teachers legally. Whether it's through YouTube or whatever social media platform, crypto, selling courses.
I'm going to stop it right there. Because the Tyson Goodsell story goes on very, very deep. He was set up, he was killed, but not because of his race, not because he was a good boy, because he was at the wrong time, wrong place. And there's only two ways in that life. It's either dead or prison. Dead or prison. There is no in between. There isn't no feel-good story at the end. There's only two stories. Death or prison. And if you don't want either of them, get the fuck out the life. I will just say this. I feel bad for Tyson Goodsell's family. I think it's bad all the way around. You know, Carmelo Anthony down in Texas his trial wrapped up, should be wrapping up this morning. They'll be in deliberations. You'll see a verdict in that. I'm really peculiar to see a verdict because there's been so many stories that have come out on social media. But what really is the truth? You know, there's so many people out here that get paid to tell a story. So, and maybe that story isn't the right one. And I think people need to open their eyes and do your own homework. It's just like with the Tyson Goodsell. People put it up there without putting the whole story. You know, they think that, oh, he got killed by some Somalians. And no, his own people that he knew set him up. Because money is a motherfucker. Greed is a motherfucker. Doesn't have nothing to do with race. It was to do with greed, to do with money. So I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. And we're going to get into that more about Carmelo Anthony, even some more about what's going on in Minneapolis. So I'll see y'all tomorrow, same time, same place, 10 o'clock. And we're going to get out of here with Don Tripp, Eddie Valero, Differences, and I will see y'all tomorrow.
I know I supposed to come in right there, but fuck this shit. Yeah, I'ma come in right here. Yeah, right here. Really just got bored, upload some dogs, she gave him something to see. Ghetto bitch from Frazier, hoe a scammer, look like Barnaby. You got bags of boo-boo, we got Zaza, you should come to me. This shit can't be done the way I do it, it's only one to me. I done been the brokest and the richest, shit a different feel. He might be a shooter or a driver, they got different skills. 10, 15, and 30s, come get high, we serving different pills. Still a work the button, it's my little baby, been on different drills.
Trap nigga got whip appeal, going broke is my biggest fear. Partner just turned 32, judge gave the nigga 60 years. Residue underneath his nails, class B for the kitchenware. What he paying for a lawyer? Nigga could've bought a Richard Mille. I just tell it like it really is. I could die any given night. Granddaddy told me crack kills, then he turned around and hit his pipe. Swear we living in a TV show, trying to get another nick at night.